Hello, everybody. This is Stephanie Narvez from WCSU Election Connection, and we are here with Mayor Erin Stewart running for her third term as mayor for New Britain. Yeah. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
Okay, so not only are you running for your third term, but you are the youngest mayor, not only in Connecticut, but in America, right?
Youngest female, actually. So when I first ran for mayor, I was elected at the age of 26, and I became, at that point, the youngest female mayor elected of a city the size of New Britain in the country, and I still hold on to that title as of today, so we're really, really proud of that. But I'm old now. I'm 30, so I'm just kidding.
You don't look old.
Hopefully I hold on to that for a while. But, it's very, and I actually learned that from President Obama's staff. So in 2014, President Obama came to visit CCSU, which is my alma mater, and his staff told us that I was the youngest female mayor that they could find in the country. And I said, wow. They're like, well, we're going to give you the title. And I said, that's great. So I wouldn't have known if it weren't for his office. So fun fact.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool.
So what are your plans for New Britain for your third term?
That's a lot. I know we don't have an hour to talk about that, but there are so many things that I would like to do with a third term. And a lot of what we've been saying to people is we need to finish the work, right? So when I first ran in 2013, I became mayor of a city that was almost bankrupt. So we talk a lot about the city of Hartford and a lot of the struggles that Hartford is having right now. And New Britain was in a very similar place in 2013, 2014. We had a $30 million budget deficit, and today that deficit I turned into a $15 million surplus. I'm very proud of that. But with that, that took a long time to fix. So we had to put a lot of other priorities on the back burner in order to get our finances under control. So what I would like to continue in my third term, if I am grateful enough to be honored with a third term, is a lot of the economic development and development of the city that we've been trying to push in the last year or so. So we created a master plan for development in our downtown area, all based off of the successes of CT Fast Track. And I want to push forward with that plan, continue building on that plan, and see lots more new development in town because of that plan. So I guess that would be my biggest goal. I think New Britain, it struggles like many other urban areas in the state of Connecticut. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Hartford, Waterbury, New Britain, Bridgeport, we all have the same issues. New Britain, albeit maybe much smaller than Bridgeport and Hartford, but we still have the same problems, and quality of life is always at the top of my priority list too. We know that our community and our residents, 75,000 people, we don't make a lot of money. We're really like working class, blue collar community. Quality of life issues are just up there. They're right up there too with all the economic development work. So I guess that's like in a nutshell. Like as quick and summary as possible. That's what I could say I would like to do with 2 more years.
Okay, that's great to hear. And how about education? I know education is something big too.
Oh yeah, of course.
New Britain stuff.
I actually started on the Board of Ed. So, yeah, let me tell you my story on that really quick. So, when I decided to get into politics, I was a softball coach at New Britain High. So, I had my team of girls that would complain to me about a lot of things all the time. And they would always say things that were happening in school that they were concerned about, and things that they were seeing, and things that they didn't think were necessarily fair or right. And you take a look at these boards of education and your local government too, and you see that there's not a lot of people that represent our age group on these boards. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot, because if we ever want to expect change, you can't expect change to happen if you don't get involved yourself and try to do something about it. So I ran and I won. And at 23, I think I was 23, 24, I was definitely the youngest person on the Board of Ed by a lot. And I think that, our education system, it's difficult. When you are running a town where you have very high poverty levels, and a lot of our students don't have the support at home that many of us had. We don't have parents pushing us, to do homework. Maybe we're coming to school hungry because we don't have food to eat at home, and that's affecting our ability to learn. There's so many other issues that come into play with an urban school district aside from just educating and taking a test and doing well. So it's a very it's a different way of educating, and I always say that they should have an urban education degree in school, because I think that's almost a completely different degree than just education. So my 2 years on the Board of Ed, there was a lot of turnover in the school district here. We went through a bunch of different acting superintendents, and ultimately, when I was on the board, led the search for a new superintendent. Didn't work out very well. Didn't work out very well at all. And which is why last year I was so happy to be able to welcome Nancy Sarah as our superintendent. I graduated high school, New Britain High, with her son. So, it was an awesome connection that we had there. Someone who I can work really closely with, someone who now, in my position as mayor, respects my opinion as mayor, and someone who I know has the best interests of our New Britain students at heart. And I think that when it comes down to it, you need somebody who understands our city, who's from here, born here, raised here themselves, to really get and understand what our kids are going through. And Nancy's made really, really great strides. The state of Connecticut laws prohibit a mayor from intervening in a lot of the education processes. So there's a fun fact. This is like a learning experience because no one ever knows this. So the mayor can only tell the Board of Education how much money they get to spend. I can't tell them how to spend it. So really what that provides, or what that does, is it creates a divide in a lot of towns, because you'll see a lot of towns where their mayors and their superintendents don't get along. And mayors will kind of hold it over superintendents' heads by saying, like, oh, we're not going to give you any more money because we don't get along, right? I'm so grateful here that I have an amazing relationship with Nancy Sarah. We meet once a month for lunch. We talk about everything that's going on. We keep in touch. And I make sure that to keep our city council up to date on what's going on in the school district too, because it's almost 55% of our city taxes go to education. So when you think about it that way, we've got myself and the city council who are in charge of the budget, and we give over half of the budget to the Board of Ed, but we don't have say over how it's spent. So it's about developing really good relationships and keeping that open line of communication. And ultimately, our students will see that trickle down into successes for them too, if they know that they have leadership and management that cares about them, and that we can get along and have open communication to make things better for them ultimately. But in a perfect world, we need to hit the lottery and win all the money, because a big struggle is the lack of funding that we get for the school district, and that's a battle that we're fighting with the state right now. So we're involved in this really big lawsuit with the state that is challenging the amount of money that we receive or don't receive per student, and it's currently in the state Supreme Court. So they ruled in our favor, and then the state appealed to the state Supreme Court, and now we're waiting for a ruling on that, to show that New Britain has been almost overlooked when it comes to how much money we receive per student for education funding.
You use Facebook, and you use a lot of you're big on social media.
Yeah.
To not just attract young students or just young people, but that's just the way now to connect to people easier. So how has that worked for you? How has that?
So that's been interesting, because I have been, I think, really one of the first mayors in the state to really use social media in a way to communicate with people that hasn't been used before. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't read the newspaper, right? No one gets the newspaper anymore. Where do you get your news from? A lot of people look to Facebook for the news. Now, it's kind of dangerous, though, because you have to filter through what's actually true and what's not. So what I use Facebook for is to tell everybody about what goes on in City Hall. So every other week we have city council meetings, and prior to those council meetings I have what I call 40 Live. And I say 40 Live, I'm the 40th mayor of the city of New Britain. So I sit at my desk and I pull out the agenda and I go through the agenda with everybody. I didn't know what to expect the first time I did it, and the first time I did it I saw that I had 3,000 viewers. Like, what? And so you look and I'm like, wow, people really are using this as a tool to learn about what's going on, because not everybody's going to come to City Hall to go to a council meeting. Matter of fact, nobody's going to come to City Hall to go to a council meeting. So if I can bring the information to you on your phone, at home, it's a better way for me to open up lines of communication. And it's a good way for me to get feedback. If you're an elected official, you can't govern effectively if you're not listening to the people, hearing what they have to say. Facebook is a really great way to hear that. And I engage with people. There's some people out there that are not very nice. Trust me. I mean, we all know how social media bullies can be. But I respond to everybody. Whether you're saying something nice or you're saying something, mean, I still respond to everyone. And I think that's been really receptive too, is that people know that I'll get back to them.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Okay. Take care.